Welcome to A-Level Psychology Attachment section. My name is Nick Redshaw and I am co-author of the highly successful Independent Learner series of student workbooks designed specifically for the AQA psychology specification. Okay, this lesson is on explanations of attachment and it's covering animal studies of attachment, including Lorenz and Harlow. So firstly, attachment is a strong emotional bond between infant and caregiver, which is said to be reciprocal. All animals share the same basic bonding instinct, therefore attachment can be regarded as a general law of survival. This section will look at animal research and the different explanations of why we form attachments. So firstly, to get you thinking, got a little solve the dingbat clues. If you've never done a dingbat, basically, if we take a look at the first one, you take the letter information, or at, and then the second one here is tack, and you get rid of the K, so at, you add the H, attach. The next bit is men, so attach men, and you add the T, so attachment. So if you have a go at solving the others, you may want to pause the video at any point, okay, and that's okay. However, I will continue to the next slide. So, animal studies of attachment, Lorenz and Harlow. According to ethology, which is the scientific study of animal behaviour, attachment is vital for survival. Therefore, all animals form an attachment attachment bond during infancy. Some species, such as birds and sheep, develop attachments very rapidly after birth in what seems to be a pre-programmed survival instinct to follow their mother. Conrad Lorenz in 1935 defined this as imprinting. After observations on newly hatched geese, ethologists suggest that attachment in humans, like animals, is the result of an imprinting-like process rather than learning through reinforcement. Lorenz, in 1935, introduced the imprinting theory, and if we look, his aim was to determine if attachment is a result of imprinting and if it occurs within a critical period. Keyword there, critical period. The procedure he used was a lab experiment. He used a clutch of goose eggs, which were randomly divided into two conditions. The eggs in condition 1 were placed under the mother goose and hatched in their natural environment. The first moving object they saw was their mother. The eggs in condition 2 were hatched in an incubator, where the first moving object they saw was Lorenz. The results? Lorenz found that geese follow the first moving object they see during a 12 to 17 hour critical period after hatching. The geese in condition 1 followed their mother, and in the second condition, they followed Lorenz. This remained the same even when the goslings were placed together in a box, as when the box was removed, they returned to the first moving object they had seen at birth. Lorenz also found that imprinting occurs without any feeding taking place. If no attachment was developed within 32 hours, it is unlikely an attachment will ever develop. Conclusions. Lorenz called this process imprinting, and from this, he concluded that attachment is innate and biologically programmed. He also concluded that imprinting has consequences. If attachment is not formed within the critical period of 12 hours, the gosling is unlikely to survive. In the longer term, if no attachment has occurred within 32 hours, then no internal templates for future relationships will have formed, making attachment with future mates unlikely to ever happen. Now, Lorenz in 1952 was interested in these long-term consequences of imprinting and found that a peacock that had been reared in a reptile house developed an attachment to a giant tortoise, which was the first moving object it had seen at birth. In his case study, Lorenz noted that this attachment shaped future mating behavior, with peacock's attention only being directed towards giant tortoises. Rather interestingly, Lorenz called this process sexual imprinting. In further research carried out by Lorenz and Hess in 1958, they concluded that once imprinting had occurred, it could not be reversed. So if a gosling attached to a human, it would not be able to imprint on anything else. However, A study by Guter et al. 1966 found that although a chicken had formed an early attachment with a yellow glove and initially tried to mate with this object, over time he learned that mating with another chicken was the best option. This suggests that Lorenz and Hess may have over-exaggerated the importance of the long-term effects of imprinting. Now, if you're using one of our workbooks or carrying out this lesson, have a go at these questions, okay? And if you do feel like sending us the answer, then Bethel and I will give you feedback on them through one of our websites, either Facebook or Twitter. It's up to you. So, the first question. Like Skinner's research in the approaches section, Lorenz's findings has often been used to make conclusions about human behaviour. What are the problems with extrapolating findings from animal research to human behaviour? This is for 2 marks. Like I say, have a go and check your answers in our workbook or our workbook answers section. Or join our Facebook community forum. The next question, complete the following sentence. Tick 1 box only. The independent variable in Lorenz's study is A, the length of time taken to form an attachment, B, the method used by Lorenz to allocate the eggs to their groups, C, the environment in which the eggs were hatched, or D, the critical period. Okay, post your answers. Next one, for 4 marks, briefly evaluate the use of a laboratory experiment in Lorenz's animal research. Next one, according to Lorenz, if no attachment is formed within 32 hours, it is unlikely to ever occur. True or false? According to Lorenz, animals form an attachment which leads to an internal template for all future mate preferences. True or false? So, moving on. Critics of Lorenz and Hess argued that humans are qualitatively different to birds and that mammalian attachment systems are more complex, showing more emotional attachments to their young. In an attempt to solve this issue, during the 1950s and 60s, extensive research by Harlow was carried out on rhesus monkeys, as they are very close to humans in the evolutionary ladder. So, very famous classic study, Harlow's monkeys, 1958. Harlow noted that when newborn rhesus monkeys were reared in total isolation, with food and water only, they usually died, or if not, acted in a frightened or abnormal manner and could not socialize with other monkeys when they were older. However, when the monkeys were given a soft cloth in their cage, they often survived. Therefore, Harlow was interested in the importance of emotional or contact comfort in healthy development. So in his research, his aim was to investigate if attachment occurs as a result of contact comfort rather than food. The procedure? Again, a lab experiment. The rhesus monkeys were divided into 2 groups. Group 1 could only get milk from the surrogate mother that was constructed of wire. Group 2 could only get milk from a surrogate mother made of cloth. Both groups had access to the 2 surrogate mothers for the remainder of the time. Harlow studied the behaviour of the monkeys over a period of 165 days. The results. Harlow found that both groups of monkeys spent more time with the cloth surrogate, with the wire group only returning to their surrogate to be fed. If a frightening object was placed in the cage, the monkeys would turn to the cloth surrogate for comfort. The monkeys were more willing to explore if the cloth surrogate was nearby. The long-term behavioural effects on both groups compared to monkeys raised with normal mothers included timid behaviour and an inability to socialise and difficulty with mating. They concluded from this, Harlow concluded that healthy development could only occur when the monkey has access and interaction with an object that can provide comfort during the first few months of life, i.e. the critical period. In addition, comfort is more important than the provision of food. Now all of that would be good AO1 if you were asked to write an essay or something like that in the exam on Lorenz and Harlow. Obviously for AO3 you'd need evaluation. And before we do that, obviously this 4 marker here, rhesus monkeys are very similar to humans, briefly outline the severe ethical concerns that arise in Harlow's animal research. Again, obviously check your answer on our website, on our Facebook forum, from our workbook or from our actual answer sections, okay? Or posters. Post Nick and Beth on Facebook or Twitter. So evaluation. The strengths of their research. So this was a lab experiment, therefore high levels of control, so it's possible to repeat the study, easily improving its reliability. Cause and effect can be established, so it can be concluded that the cloth surrogate mother produced a different behaviour, with all the monkeys preferring emotional comfort rather than just food. This finding contradicted dominant behaviourist theories of the time, which claimed that being fed by a mother led to attachment. Therefore, that can provide good evaluation if you're looking at evaluating the behaviourist approach. Harlow's findings were groundbreaking, providing psychologists with greater understandings of human mother-infant attachment, and provided evidence for the importance of early attachment on future childhood and adult relationships. The research has had a practical implication for social workers, as it has provided with an insight into the need to intervene at an early stage in the cases of child neglect. Limitations. The monkeys are not the same as humans, so care should be exercised when drawing conclusions from the results. It's hard to extrapolate from animal research. There are no obvious ethical issues with the way the monkeys were treated. There are obvious ethical issues with the way the monkeys were treated, which you should have highlighted in the question above. However, the clear benefits of this research balance these concerns. So simply, do the ends justify the means? Okay, that's it for lesson 1. Don't forget, have a go at the questions, go back, have a go, download our workbooks, and post your answers so that we can give you feedback. Okay, see you in the next lesson, lesson 2.